Eddie Frederick has got it all. Inspiration, motivation, great advice, and biting opinion pieces as only Eddie Frederick can deliver. Eddie Frederick has got it all.
This has been Edification, made possible by the efforts of the Center for Democracy and Good Governance, CDGG. The Center for Democracy and Good Governance is a sound organization established to promote and strengthen democracy.
If I take time and I write down all the things that I love on my island, best believe my list gon' be like 5 miles long. Best believe it's love that makes me sing this song. The cleanest beers on the waters, friendly people meet in every corner. Togetherness and love is what we stand for. We stand for. We stand for.
Oh, island in the sun. Look at how we've grown, how far we've run. 50 years we strong and more to come. More to come. More to come. Going higher. 50 years we're blessed with forged in fire. Still reaching for more. Going up, going up, 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 going up, going up, going up, 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 up,
Higher. Going higher. As we aspire, build up ourselves, put people together. Bang, bang, bang. It's only up.
I want the best for my family, so every meal has to be perfect. Every bite has to say, There's no doubt in my mind that the best in frozen meats and vegetables has to come from the Country Cold Store. Hams, turkeys, sausages, beef, pork, chicken. I just don't know my family is in safe hands. Thank you, Country Cold Store, for being there for us for the past 40 years.
There are some interesting specials available at Country Cold Store's Mini Mart while stocks last. Take advantage of these specials as they assist you to stretch your limited funds.
The Country Cold Store, providing the best in frozen meats and vegetables since 1969.
Attention all forward-thinking companies. Sure, you can do with a continuous positive boost to your image and impact your bottom line. If you think training is expensive, try not training and you will experience a perpetual downward spiral in patronage on account of increased dissatisfied customers. Take things into your hands and engage the best at motivation and customer care training with a tried and tested track record. Visit www.efrederick.com now and learn how you can change the atmosphere in your business and improve the customer experience for everyone who does business with you. Spice Island Beach Resort and Belmont Estate are two such local entities of world renown that have benefited tremendously from ongoing customer care, social skills, and motivation training. Training changes everything for the better for any business and every team member. Enhance employee performance through increased awareness and passion for the job at hand. Greater potential in your workforce awaits you through engaged, high-energy training that works. Log on now. www.efrederick.com.
Eddie Frederick has got it all. Inspiration, motivation, great advice, and biting opinion pieces as only Eddie Frederick can deliver. Eddie Frederick has got it all.
Wonderful, folks. Wonderful, wonderful. Welcome to Edification. And of course, this is our 245th edition as we enter a most joyous month of the year, where we ready ourselves to usher in the Christmas season to celebrate, of course, the birth of the Christ child, who was born in a manger of extremely humble beginnings. This Christmas season, folks, please, we must remember the reason for the season, and that it is not for us to splurge through, consumerism, which reality dictates that we can no longer afford. Get ready to spread cheer, joy, and genuine love in creative ways. Make something. Make a little bread. Make a little bun. Make a little, fruit-infused coconut bun, if that's what you can afford. The important thing is that you wrap it up and deliver it to your neighbor. As we bring back the each one look out for each other, that kind of living as we once knew it. Goodly folks, as soon as you come into the room today, please share, please comment, please like, please love, and just interact as you usually do, please. Great to be with you once more. You know, that's why when people ask me, how am I? You'll never hear me say, so, are they not bad? Oh no, I am too grateful for life for that. Above ground is a good place to be, and therefore a wonderful opportunity to be grateful. Our angel number, of course, is 245. And 245 represents big changes and transitions. The number is made up of the energies and vibrations of the numbers 2, 4, and 5. Number 2 reflects balance and harmony. Number 4, stability and foundation. And number 5, freedom and adventure. So let's go forward today with balance, harmony, stability, and genuine freedom, remembering, of course, to be responsible in all that we do. With all that keeps going on around us, folks, if we do not pay attention and keenly to and take stock, we will miss out on opportunities to soar in life and end up leaving this earth worse off and without a trace of us ever existing. Too many people are on their way to that kind of end. Too many of our people living in a one-sided arrangement. And if and when you drop dead, nobody notices because you were living selfishly and too silent. You see, we showed up to stand out, did not show up to fit in. Our topic for today is therefore well chosen. Naivety and ignorance are too prevalent among a nation that has so much history. You see, so much has gone on before our very eyes, and we are still inclined to remain ignorant of the consequences and ramifications. Look at the standard of living and quality of life many of us live today. Not because we feel the low to no standard that we revel in is our lot. It is our lot. We are meant for more. Too few of us understand the assignment and are therefore prepared to do what we must in order to achieve the growth that we truly deserve as a matter of course. I learned a long time now that naivety and ignorance are not interchangeable. They're totally different. Two different things. Naivety refers to a state of being many things, to include, not limited to, inexperienced, uncritical, or overly trusting, often due to a lack of knowledge, a lack of worldly experience, or even critical judgment. Most people who are naive were brought up sheltered from the things and people that they are naive about. It is often characterized by an innocent, simplistic, or even idealistic view of situations, people, or even the world. People are generally not naive about everything. And even though they may be worldly, some of the things they exhibit naivety about could be frightening. When we do not pay attention to all the signs and signals, folks, not to mention the consistency of a con man or a con woman, we end up being conned. You see, naive people allow cons to disable them. He or she has them believing how they live is how they have to live or should live till they die. Thus, they become enablers of him or her in perpetuity. And while he or she gets rich and prosper, they remain in the assumed position of poverty and vulnerability. Naivety has dire consequences, and we have been witnessing here in Grenada between 1995 and 2022 for the most part. Let us look at some key characteristics of naivety, folks. It's very instructive that we do so. A tendency to believe people or situations at face value without questioning their motives or underlying complexities. These current days in which we live, we ought to question everything. As people have shown us all too often, they are just not genuine for the most part. You see difficulty in recognizing manipulation or dishonesty due to assuming goodwill or honesty in others. That's another aspect. Lack of skepticism. You see, then we end up on social media posting stuff as if, well, to throw words for other people who we are so disappointed in. We must learn to expect everything and anything from anyone, and we will never be surprised or shocked or disappointed anymore. You see, naivety often stems from limited exposure to certain life scenarios, such as professional, social, or even cultural challenges. Underexposure will never qualify anyone to opine sensibly on anything. You can take that to the bank. So inexperience is another one. But what about idealism? A belief in perfect or utopian outcomes, often disregarding potential pitfalls or the realities of human behavior. That is especially common in people who live on the moon. And when they visit Earth occasionally, they expect life here to be the same. You see, since people have lost their moral compass, ability to be critical thinkers, the fabric of being kind to one another, idealism has been redefined, and it is therefore wise for all of us to be mindful of the likelihood of constant disappointment with things and people as they have deteriorated to become, even though they are unexpected by the naive. But you know, naivety has some positive aspects. Naive individuals may approach life with curiosity and optimism, unburdened by cynicism and distrust. A naive perspective can make someone appear genuine, sincere, and approachable. Authentic, in other words, without being constrained by the way things are done. Naivety can lead to fresh, innovative ideas. In other words, you are not contaminated with any negatives, so therefore you are capable of creative thinking. But there's some gross negative consequences, folks. Over-trusting individuals may be manipulated or taken advantage of in personal, professional, or financial situations. Look at the large swath of our Grenadian people who have, by virtue of their own omissions, allowed themselves to be manipulated by the biggest con to ever roam the local corridors of leadership. So what could result from naivety as a negative consequence? Exploitation. But you see, idealistic expectations can lead to frustration or sadness when outcomes don't align with one's assumptions. I believe it was Norton Juster, a renowned American author, architect, and academic, who once said, "Expect everything, and the unexpected never happens." Isn't that interesting? Expect everything, and the unexpected never happens. And that is so, so true. I put it there in the comment section for those of you who think that's a wonderful pearl of wisdom to remember. So you see, disappointment is one of the side effects of the negatives that we can accrue from being naive. But limited growth is another one. If unchecked, naivety may hinder your ability to develop critical thinking or resilience in complex situations. thus stunting your ability to GROW. But you have to remember, we determined that grow means get rid of weaknesses. Get rid of weaknesses. Very, very important. We have to get rid of them so that we can grow. You see, in the workplace, a naive employee might believe all feedback is constructive without considering potential workplace politics. Such person usually gets gobbled up by others with malintentions and who will use them as footstools on which to climb to the top. You see, someone naive might ignore red flags in a relationship, believing their partner's intentions are always pure. Now, that is stupidity. This could lead to massive breakup that sends tremors to their soul. You know why? They were not paying attention. But naivety can be expected, folks. As a matter of fact, once you are naive, you are an easy target to be scammed. Naivety can make people more susceptible to scams, such as fraudulent investment schemes, as we are hearing all too often about when it comes to the many victims around and about us. You did not take part in any competition, yet you are attracted to the news that you won something. And in order to collect, you need to repatriate a certain sum of money to process your winnings. Hello, you did not take part. So why should you be scammed like that? You have to be living on the moon with your head stuck under a rock for you to accept that as gospel and oblige. You would be surprised if I were to tell you the people, the likes of whom allowed themselves to be caught by these scammers. Folks, naivety and ignorance are too prevalent among a nation, our nation, that has so much history. Let's take a little break and we'll come back with a lot more from whence that came.
Eddie Frederick has got it all. Inspiration, motivation, great advice, and biting opinion pieces as only Eddie Frederick can deliver. Eddie Frederick has got it all.
This is Edification, made possible by the efforts of the Center for Democracy and Good Governance, CDGG. The strength of views and opinions expressed during edification are not necessarily a reflection or representation of the sponsors and or affiliates of this program.
Oh, island in the sun. Look at how we've grown, how far we've run. 50 years we strong and more to come. More to come. More to come. Going higher. 50 years we're blessed with much fire. Still reaching for more. Going up, going up, 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 going up, going up, going up, 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 up. Ever higher. Going higher. As we aspire, build up ourselves, put people together. Bang, bang, bang. It's only up.
Eddie Frederick has got it all. Inspiration, motivation, great advice, and biting opinion pieces as only Eddie Frederick can deliver. Eddie Frederick has got it all.
Wonderful, folks. Wonderful, wonderful. So as we return here, folks, I just want to welcome those of you who are just joining us and, beckon you to be reminded that you have one obligation, one responsibility. Please share the live. Thank you for taking time off from whatever you're doing on this Sunday afternoon to be in the room with us and become edified. I am sure after setting the stage for a better understanding of naivety, you would like to explore strategies to overcome a specific aspect of naivety. You see, overcoming naivety involves developing critical thinking, emotional intelligence, and a balanced perspective on trust and skepticism. Now, I'm trusting that you will find the following helpful strategies as a worthy introduction tailored to address different aspects of naivety. As today's sharing evolves, we will elaborate further. First of all, let's look at cultivating critical thinking. Before accepting information or making decisions, assess the source's credibility. You have to assess it and consider alternative perspectives. If a prolific liar or inherent thief is the source of the information, every bit of it should be dismissed. Regularly challenge assumptions, including your own, by asking why or how, to deepen your own understanding. Challenge yourself, in other words. Practice analytical thinking by breaking complex issues into smaller parts and exploring their components. What about developing emotional intelligence? First and foremost, you have to understand how emotions, yours and others, influence decision making. For example, being overly trusting might stem from a desire to avoid conflict, but overcoming conflict aids awareness and growth. Avoiding them puts you at a disadvantage when it comes to awareness. And of course, you will never grow. What about learning to say no and establishing personal and professional boundaries to prevent being exploited? Remember, as I have always told you, the word no is a 2-letter word. And when last I checked, it is an entire sentence. Learn to say no. Why do you think when children learn to speak, the first thing they say, and they say very often to you, no, no, no? That's their way of challenging something so that they can grow. Challenging to see how far they can get. It's a test, folks. Why, when you become big, you forget no? Challenge people. The answer is no. Let them work hard to be able to change your mind. Reflect on past experiences where naivety led to negative outcomes and use these lessons to anticipate similar scenarios in the future. That is how you build resilience, folks. Reflect on your past experiences. Don't forget them. Because naivety had led you to the outcomes you got. So transpose that now as experience going forward. Let's look at balancing trust and skepticism. You have to adopt a trust but verify approach in personal and professional interactions. Dismiss prolific and habitual forthwith, as so many of us have dismissed Satan's grandson. Dismiss them. Remember I told you some time ago, I don't even listen to he. I cannot, because you're just seeing evil all over his persona, evil intentions. And will tell you the intelligent is not you I'm speaking to. What does that say about that creature? He do good. Because he's speaking to those whom he can continue to manipulate. Folks, you have to learn from mentors, you know. Seek guidance from individuals with more experience or expertise than you, as they can provide valuable insights and caution against pitfalls. But remember this, folks. A lot of you refer to people as your mentors. But let me tell you something. For someone to be an effective mentor, they have to choose you as a mentee and not the other way around. They have to see qualities in you that they want to help, develop further. But when you choose them, They have no connectivity to you. Look for consistent behavior or results in others before placing your trust in them. Stop trusting anyone who has been consistent in using, discarding, and destroying others, leaving them with mangled legacies as their very own. Come on, folks. Call name and go whistle. You know the king of that particular kingdom. Consistent behavior. How could you trust someone who uses, discards, and destroys others? You've seen that for all of 40 years, and you're still positioning yourself to be used, discarded, and destroyed. Folks, you have to educate yourself, you know. Stay informed about common scams, manipulative tactics, or decision-making biases. This awareness reduces susceptibility to exploitation. The man who can succeed in exploiting me is not born yet, and his mother died a long time now. I position myself for knowledge always, and I advise you to do the same, folks. Step outside your comfort zone. In other words, practice exposure. When you step outside your comfort zone, you encounter diverse perspectives, environments, and experiences. They become your tools for repelling any attempt to manipulate you through lies and other forms of dishonesty. Regularly ask for constructive criticism from trusted peers or mentors to identify blind spots. If you know how many people reach out to me via private inbox messages to seek clarification on certain issues that they are not sure of, all I can say to that, folks, is wow. Nobody who has reached out could tell you that I ignored them. Avoid impulsive decisions by taking time to evaluate risks and benefits. Apply models like SWOT, strengths, weaknesses, opportunities, threats. That form of analysis to structure your thinking. Write down and review decisions, noting what worked and what didn't to refine your judgment over time. We all ought to know that naivety can come with negative consequences depending on the context. I gave you just a breathtaking of some negatives regarding naivety earlier. So one to vulnerabilities and of course extreme challenges. Let's just look at some negative consequences. Naive individuals may trust others too easily, making them susceptible to what? Manipulation, deception, and exploitation by inherently dishonest people. Worse yet, if those dishonest people are in political leadership, church leadership, business leadership, and even leadership of important entities and organizations. A lack of experience or awareness may result in overly idealistic expectations, leading to disappointment or frustration when reality does not match. That is because you went to the table with unrealistic expectations because you're naive. What about poor decision making? Naivety can lead to decisions based on incomplete understanding, incomplete assumptions, or incomplete emotional responses rather than critical thinking or informed judgment. Naive people tend to be over-reliant on others. Without a skeptical or discerning mindset, naive individuals may depend too heavily on others for guidance, potential potentially losing, I would say, independence or even autonomy, and giving up their authenticity in the process. Stop relying on others. We live in a world today where others cannot be effortlessly trusted as in the past. People see you as they need you. They don't see you because they want to love you. They see you as they need you. You see, naive individuals may underestimate dangers, whether in personal relationships, professional settings, or everyday situations, which can lead to harmful outcomes. That is because naive people have difficulty recognizing risks. Naivety can sometimes cause misunderstandings or conflict in social or professional contexts, where more experienced individuals expect nuanced behavior or responses. I don't know if you're hearing that, but a lot of rain is falling on my I'll use zinc right now, and it's competing with me. So I hope it is not deafening you out there. But one of the negative consequences of naivety is social challenges. Struggles in negotiations, folks, they are another result of naivety. You see, in situations requiring negotiation or even assertiveness, example, salary discussions, contracts, naive individuals may settle for less favorable terms due to a lack of awareness or confidence. Too many of us who like to refer to ourselves as Christians, yet for all we do not set our minds and thoughts permanently on things above. Thoughts become words, folks. Words become actions. Actions become habits. And habits become character. And character, of course, is who you are. For your thoughts, words, actions, habits, and character to be aligned with God's will, you have to watch your thoughts. Whatever informs you is also what will form you. What you speak with your mouth, hear with your ears, see with your eyes, feel with your heart are doorways into your spirit. That is why we need to guard ourselves and be vigilant against nastinesses who set out to manipulate us. Things are not as they appear, folks. The road to heaven can feel like hell because of the conscious efforts you have to put into the journey, so that you are not distracted by the petty feelings that can take you off course and make you give up. Guard your thoughts. Start with being careful with the company that you keep or the people you follow. You would find that the naive state that you dwell in today will, when you truly set your mind and thoughts on things above. Too many of you remain slaves to the European version of Christianity, which is stunting your growth and development as people. You need to transcend yourselves and surround yourself with the right energies. Surrender to the dictates of spirituality, where you can become in alignment with your higher inner consciousness. Naivety and ignorance are too prevalent among a nation that has so much history. But as a nation, we have been through too much for such a large swath of people to be so lazy to think for themselves, resulting in cons inserting themselves on you and manipulating you to their advantage. You know what they say? A people who do not know their history, that people would be doomed to repeat it. We need to know from whence we came. We are too pregnant with history for us to be allowing inferior infidels to take us and make puppy show with us. Our history is too rich for that. So we have to stop this naivety and this ignorance. We need to sit up and pay attention to the evil ones. God knows there are many of them around us. Let's take a break and we'll come right back with some more fire.
Eddie Frederick has got it all. Inspiration, motivation, great advice, and biting opinion pieces as only Eddie Frederick can deliver. Eddie Frederick has got it all.
This is Edification, made possible by the efforts of the Center for Democracy and Good Governance, CDGG. The strength of views and opinions expressed during edification are not necessarily a reflection or representation of the sponsors and or affiliates of this program.
Oh, island in the sun. Look at how we've grown, how far we've run. 50 years we strong and more to come. More to come. More to come. Going higher. 50 years we're blessed with fire. Still reaching for more. Going up, going up, going up, going up. Going higher, going higher, as we aspire, build up us, put people together, bang, 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 it's only up.
Eddie Frederick has got it all. Inspiration, motivation, great advice, and biting opinion pieces as only Eddie Frederick can deliver. Eddie Frederick has got it all.
Welcome back, folks. And for those of you just joining, the usual refrain. As soon as you come into the room, hit that share button and let's get interactive. Let's get interactive, folks. Welcome back. How do we balance innocence with awareness? You see, naivety doesn't have to be a permanent trait. It's possible to remain open-hearted while becoming more discerning. We need to investigate ways to mitigate the negative consequences, though. We have to question information, verify sources, and evaluate situations objectively before forming conclusions. This practice will no doubt put you in a position to cultivate and develop critical thinking, which is so absent in Grenada. People have become so simplistic, they jump and believe everything they hear. For instance, I have seen certain things online. I take them in for their entertainment value. But I question them while being entertained by them. You know why? There's something called AI today. So you're not getting me to easily accept and believe everything that I see or hear, for that matter. I question motives. And then I just reduce whatever it is. Once I cannot provide the answers by my own critical thinking capacity, I just reduce whatever I viewed or listened to just entertainment. Well, how come I could do that? You can't do that too? Everything you see, you have to believe? Well, something had to be wrong with you. Folks, develop your capacity at critical thinking. I don't know if your mother ever told you when you were growing up that if something, for God's sake, appears to be too good to be true, it probably is. If your mother ever told you that, and you still end up being gullible, you didn't listen to your mother, I wonder what else she tell you that you didn't listen to. I'm sure she told you don't thief. So if you didn't listen to that, you must be thieving too. Come on, folks. We have to learn from experience. Use past mistakes or observations as opportunities to grow and to improve your judgment. If you see the biggest con destroying others consistently, would you be attracted to his leadership when all you can ever hope for, if you are an independent mind, is your own destruction should you go in and be led by that con? Just by mere association with this con, you're gone through, because the thinking man will no longer want to associate with you. If you were paying attention, you would learn from the devastating experiences of others who have been decimated to the point where no one has any respect for them today. Learn from experience and remember what they say. A mistake repeated more than once is a habit. Folks, we want you to rely on experienced individuals to provide guidance and perspective in areas where you may lack knowledge. Trust the judgment of a straight shooter and desist from a straight shooter of hating, when in truth and in fact, all the straight shooter is attempting to do is to ventilate so you can be forewarned and therefore become forearmed. That make a lot of sense? Recognize others' motives and intentions to navigate interpersonal relationships more effectively. Remember, we were born to be connected to our inner higher consciousness and not to reside only in the flesh. When you practice spirituality, your energy vibrates at a much higher frequency than any other who does not. Stay informed about potential pitfalls, folks, or challenges in specific areas of your life or work. Get real and keep it real, in other words. It is no secret that over the years, my consistency at ventilating the light of the old nastiness from the time he was a younger nastiness, intent on growing old and stale, to successfully assume the classifications of Satan's grandson and Tropical Trump, having single-handedly destroyed so many Grenadians, leaving them for dead. I could never be mistaken for being naive or ignorant. The consistency of this old nastiness at lying can never be interrupted, to the point where he is never known to even make a mistake to tell the truth. He is a guy no one in their right mind should ever listen to, for fear that he manipulates you with his lies for his own benefit, as he has been accustomed to doing since he got into politics, as long ago as since 1972. We have really got to be out of our minds to have an individual who spent 52 years of his almost 80 years around the precincts of our local politics, and we expect relevance from him in 2024. That has to be some retarded stuff, folks. Every time I see his father ardently following him, it reminds me of how prophetic my deceased mother was when she advised me since Heinzie school days to hang out with A or B students if you discover that you're at a C level or lower. She said the conversations among the A and the B students bound to be different, and it must cause you to want to tag along. Look at most, if not all, of the people who hang out around the precincts of the National Nasty Party. They can only be described as needy, greed, indeed. They continue to reinfect each other to the point where their situation becomes chronic. How they have been socialized to look at things is guided by the infestation of lies told to them, dooming them to an eternity that could never be good for them and their offsprings. One of them, in a one-time noble profession, told a colleague once, "I made a conscious decision to support the NNP." If that person was discerning, they would not just receive that statement in a simplistic manner, but would realize that that person is intent on being nothing more than a vulture who sees the opportunity for progress via active support for the National Nasty Party, so they can get ahead and rub shoulders with the more successful in that specific profession. That is where the idea of a conscious decision comes to life. They made a conscious decision to support that party so they can get ahead. But that person is well-lettered, well-learned, and in ordinary terms ought not need to support any organization for the opportunity to get ahead. You see, that person is morally challenged. So when one remains conscious, pays keen attention to everything around him, he will not ever fall for anything untoward, because only the naive would not be able to see where someone like the old nastiness would be coming from, where associating with him can take them. You know, this is a man who does not care who he implicates or contaminates, let alone compromise, just to have his way. The thinking man could see that. And all we are doing here, folks, is inviting you to learn to think so you too can see that and stop volunteering to be his victim. This is a man that would never tolerate people around him whose political support he's not sure of. This is a master of deception, a master of victimization, a master of decimation and destruction. Yet for all, he projects all these things on his opponents, both within and outside his organization's structure, as a means of continuing to manipulate support in his direction. You see, folks, it's important for us to understand the nature of deception, which is basically a reflection on habitual liars. You must have seen this quote recently. Some people lie so much, even when they tell you good morning, you have to watch the time. But that is a variation of a common expression about habitual liars. It doesn't have a definitive attribution to any one person. It is often shared in conversations, memes, or online fora, typically as anonymous or colloquial wisdom. If you're looking for its origin, it seems more likely a piece of folklore or informal wit rather than something from a notable figure. The phrase, "Some people lie so much, even when they tell you good morning, you have to watch the time." That phrase actually captures the pervasive distrust created by habitual liars. While humorous on the surface, this expression reflects a deeper commentary on the nature of dishonesty and its impact on human relationships. It invites us to explore why people lie excessively, the consequences of such behavior, and the challenges of rebuilding trust in the wake of deceit. Lying is often seen as a moral failing, but habitual lying can stem from complex psychological factors. Some individuals lie compulsively due to insecurities, a desire for attention, or a need to manipulate situations for personal gain. Some others again lie for relevance. In some cases, pathological lying is linked to personality disorders such as narcissism or antisocial behavior. For these individuals, deception becomes a default mode of communication, making it difficult for others to distinguish truth from falsehood when you're around them. A habitual liar's motivations are often tied to their perceived benefits of lying. They may believe that falsehoods help them avoid conflict, gain social approval, and protect themselves from vulnerability. You see, over time, these short-term gains can lead to long-term damage. Damage in their relationships, and don't talk about their reputations, because what people will think of people like that, based on constructive conclusion, is that they do good. You see, the phrase's hyperbolic suggestion to watch the time when they tell you good morning underscores how deeply ingrained dishonesty can erode the basic trust necessary for human interaction with such people. Folks, there's a rippling effect that deceit actually takes on, you know. Habitual lying doesn't just affect the liar, you know. It impacts everyone around them. Trust is the foundation of healthy relationships, whether personal, professional, or societal. So when someone lies repeatedly, they create a cloud of uncertainty that taints their every word and action. Friends, family, and colleagues may find themselves second-guessing even the simplest statements, leading to frustration, resentment, or estrangement. In my case, blanking altogether. I don't even know you exist. On a broader level, habitual lying can damage communities and institutions. For instance, in politics or business, a leader who lies habitually risks undermining public confidence and destabilizing the system they represent. This erosion of trust can have far-reaching consequences, breeding cynicism and division among people who rely on honesty to navigate shared challenges. Folks, rebuilding trust could be a very serious uphill battle when it comes to being rescued from a prolific liar, you know. You see, the phrase also highlights an important truth. Once trust is broken, it is incredibly hard to repair. Rebuilding trust requires consistent, honest time. But habitual liars, this can be an almost insurmountable challenge. Their past actions often speak louder than their present intentions, and skepticism lingers in the minds of those they deceived. Habitual liars must confront their own behavior and motivations to change. This process requires self-awareness, accountability, and often professional help. Without a genuine commitment to honesty, attempts to rebuild trust are likely to fall short. So what's the cautionary lesson here, folks? The humor in the phrase, some people lie so much, even when they tell you good morning, you have to watch the time, belies a serious lesson. Honesty is essential to the fabric of human relationships. It reminds us to be cautious in whom we place our trust, while also challenging us to reflect on our own integrity. In a world where truth has become so elusive, valuing and practicing honesty becomes a radical act of respect. And it's so sad that we could allow a whole nation to be gobbled up by a prolific liar, a dishonest individual on steroids. Ultimately, The phrase serves as both a critique and a caution. It warns us of the dangers of habitual lying while reminding us of the profound importance of truth in building and sustaining meaningful connections. By choosing honesty over deceit, we affirm the value of trust, a cornerstone for all enduring relationships. Folks, naivety and ignorance are too prevalent among a nation that has so much history. We ought not be easily fooled by liars and cons, as we have allowed so blatantly between 1995 and 2022, for the most part, and continuing. Let's take a break. We come back with our final segment today, folks.
Eddie Frederick has got it all. Inspiration, motivation, great advice, and biting opinion pieces as only Eddie Frederick can deliver. Eddie Frederick has got it all.
This is Edification, made possible by the efforts of the Center for Democracy and Good Governance, CDGG. The strength of views and opinions expressed during edification are not necessarily a reflection or representation of the sponsors and or affiliates of this program.
Oh, island in the sun. Look at how we've grown, how far we've run. 50 years we strong and more to come. More to come. More to come. Going higher. 50 years we're blessed with much fire. Still reaching for more. Going up, going up, 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 up. Going up, going up, going up, 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 up. Higher. Going higher. As we aspire, build up us, put people together. Bang, bang, bang. Slowly up.
Eddie Frederick has got it all. Inspiration, motivation, great advice, and biting opinion pieces as only Eddie Frederick can deliver. Eddie Frederick has got it all.
Wonderful, folks, wonderful. And of course, this is our final segment, so it's instructive that you really pull up. Apart from which, those of you who are just joining, I welcome you. Even if you're late, don't worry, the program is archived, so you can always go back and see what you missed. Because there's no point in just getting a segment. You should get it all, because it's a whole story we're telling here every Sunday that is subdivided into 4 segments, 4 parts. So as soon as you come in the room, it's never too late to share. And of course, long after the program is gone, you can always go back, look at it, and share it again. All right? Folks, we often hear people described as naive, intelligent, or even foolish. But have you ever thought about how these traits come about? It's not by chance or accident. Our state of mind, intelligence, or even mistakes are a result of deliberate actions, choices, and the environments we immerse ourselves in. Folks, your mother must have told you, as mine had rather, because, God rest her soul, that you go around with losers, you end up a loser. Because negative people tend to be very strong. If you line with C students, when you fail, where you going? D. You might even drop to F. And if they have Z, you might drop to that too. But if you start liming with the B, there's a hope for you to maintain your C level. You might occasionally become a B. But the best advice, folks, is for you to lime and hang out with A students. Because for sure, you're likely to become a B. Occasionally, you'll land an A. But you will surely move from C. Didn't I tell you earlier? The conversations among the A and B students are totally different from the conversations among the C students. Look at how we have a female MP from the opposition who has actually assumed the whole personality of the cult. Every so often, as she opens her mouth, It's just stupidness that comes out. Yet for all, background is teaching. You could imagine having a child for that person to teach. That has to be a travesty. But because they hang out with who they're hanging out with, they're getting absorbed by them. Absorbed by the environment and becoming of the environment. It's so sad. You look at the young man from Karaoke. I ain't even call his name. Even though he kept their company when they were in power, people still saw him as a decent young man. Now they out, he had a toe line, mouth trembling to talk, lying, assuming the character traits of the environment he's immersed in. And you could see that what he's saying is going against his spirit. But he's keeping up appearances, because to do otherwise is to be found wanting. For something had to be wrong, Where is your character? Where's the courage of your own conviction? Why would you divorce yourself from your upbringing, the moral underpinnings that I am sure your parents bequeath to you? Folks, let us look at some definitions here. Naive, smart, and stupid. Naivety, folks, it's a lack of experience or understanding. It's not supposed to be a permanent state, but rather a phase we will go through in different aspects of life. It should be understood that a naive individual tends to fall for scams and can easily be deceived. A naive person does not usually pay attention to his or her surroundings and the things that go on in the environment around him or her. A naive person can be fooled once, twice, 3 times, and even 4. But guess what? They still have appetite to go back for 5th helpings. Naive people are usually consumed by poor judgment that usually come with poor consequences, such as unwise decision-making and ill-considered choices. Those are the people who are usually up front telling you, now is not the time for this, that, and the other. Set us stupidities. Many of us were taught by naive people that keeping quiet kept the peace. Not enough of us woke up to realize whose peace us keeping quiet helped to keep. The offender is at peace. And the people who don't want to deal with it are at peace. While we who were told to keep quiet are left holding on to the war. Joke among you making, me holding on to no war. I shall take it to them and let peace reign thereafter, where it ought to, in me. Intelligence. This is our ability to learn, understand, and apply knowledge. It's not just about being book smart, but also being adaptable and insightful, full of common sense. Stupidity? Wow. Harsh as it may sound, it often comes down to making poor decisions repeatedly and refusing to learn from mistakes. Stupidity is when one is lied to several times for years. They know they are being lied to and still believe the lies. Isaac Asimov, an American writer and professor of biochemistry at Boston University, put it quite intelligently when he said, when stupidity is considered patriotism, it is unsafe to be intelligent. You see, stupidity is when one chooses to own expensive things they cannot afford to impress people they do not know and who in turn do not care. These people putting themselves out of the way to impress others can be seen ordinarily living either on the verge of or in absolute squalor and are probably malnourished otherwise. You see, understanding these definitions helps us to see that we have control over where we land on the spectrum. Folks, the widely circulated and I dare say popularly believed claim that Grenada's former Prime Minister, Satan's grandson, exploited the vulnerabilities of the Grenadian people is a perspective that does not require careful examination because of his actions, policies, and leadership during his time in office. Here is an objective breakdown to understand the possible reasons behind such accusations while maintaining objectivity, since truth is truth is truth. Critics argue that Tropical Trump, like many politicians, used his position, and in order to maintain political power time and time again, he appealed to the emotions of the unsuspecting by making grand promises, all of which he had no intention of keeping, disabling his followers completely and thus turning them into dependents all. Political leaders, the likes of the expired NNP leader, have always been known to leverage the hopes and fears of the electorate to gain or even sustain support, a common feature in competitive politics, which is always to the detriment of a large swath of unsuspecting and naive citizens. You see, Grenada's small developing economy has historically relied on external aid, loans, and foreign investment. Critics might suggest that Tropical Trump's lack for and of meaningful and workable economic strategies left the population dependent on these external sources rather than fostering long-term self-sufficient growth. You see, if these remained high during his tenure, poverty and unemployment that is, some may interpret his leadership as failing to address systemic issues, thereby leaving citizens totally vulnerable, qualifying him to call them poor, vulnerable all now. Now, when you think of all the allegations of corruption, past controversies such as accusations of financial mismanagement, several questionable deals, no doubt fuel perceptions of exploitation. Even if not proved, such allegations have eroded public trust, something the old nastiness knows, and because misery loves company, he and his brigands project their wrongs on the new administration, attracting questions and even doubt in the minds of the naive. If the NNP administration, led by this inherently questionable character, could have been seen as lacking transparency in all its dealings, vocal critics like myself could interpret this as taking advantage of a less informed and generally naive populace who position and reposition themselves constantly to be pillaged and ransacked as a matter of course, with their reward being nothing more than crumbs and scraps, while their exploiters appeared to prosper. It's no secret that Satan's grandson served multiple terms as ultimate leader of this nation's affairs, which has been seen as a consolidation of power aided and abetted by people who generally have not been paying attention to his inferior style, which maimed their moral faculties, causing him to get through. Critics might argue that this dominance allowed him to overtly influence institutions and systems, mangling them completely in ways that benefited him and a select few members of his administration more than the populace. It is no secret that the administration favored loyalists and engaged in total patronage as part of his modus operandi at exploitation, especially as seen through his penchant for unequally distributing resources. Who are these loyalists? You'd be surprised, folks. The baser members of our population, who hung out with one another to the point where now that their evil and diabolical godfather is no longer around the precincts of power, they are totally lost, finding it nearly impossible to find a place in organized society. But what happens to anyone when he or she hangs out with their own kind? They assume their standards and quality, and when those are compromised, what are the results? You already know, because we are living among them today with all their terrible consequences. You see, in societies where political literacy or access to unbiased information is limited to non-existent, like we have become here in Grenada, negative and diabolical leaders can more easily sway public opinions. You see, the old nastiness's fake charm has been able to foster trust among the naive and ignorant. Thus, he has been able to push inferior policies and decisions that have never aligned with the best interests of our people collectively. How do we balance the perspective? It is important to note that many of these criticisms are not unique to tropical Trump or even Grenada, but are challenges faced by leaders worldwide, particularly in developing nations. You see, supporters have heard him say so often that they became convinced that his leadership brought stability, international investment, and infrastructure development to Grenada. At what cost? And to whose personal benefit? We should ask. You see, he repeated these lies so much that it became second nature to the several among us who don't pay attention, proving how naive they all are. You see, the extent to which his inferior policies benefited or even harmed Grenadians depends on the values one uses to evaluate his tenure. So if you are a person of high standards of quality, structure, order, and integrity are your underpinnings, you could never be one to associate his overextended tenure with any positive outcome from all his negative results visited upon people and people's true north development. You see, while the old nastiness's tenure may have had a few accomplishments, the devastating impact of his lack of philosophy and sound people development policies take center stage in the minds of the educated, who give him a miserable failing grade. In light of him being the leader that spent the most time in direct governance of the nation's affairs in a post-independence context. You see, analytical minds would always cite issues of poor governance, economic reliance on shallow activities with all their vulnerabilities, and petty political strategy as areas of grave concern. To expand on this, we can analyze specific examples of policies or controversies. Look, the Citizenship by Investment program under him prioritized foreign investors over local citizens, potentially marginalizing Grenadians economically and socially. If they were really serious, they would have actually implemented a system where our local human resources would have been developed through active training to meet first world standards when it comes to the service experience that they deliver to visitors. The same cannot be said of the only 2.5-year-old administration, which has been trying to do just that through the GTA's Excellence Champion program. Now, after Hurricane Ivan in 2004, Even though a majority of people were in utter distress, the old nastiness's administration was left with no choice but to implement fiscal rules and debt restructuring, which did not help many people really, but it helped in some way to stabilize the economy. Again, if it were not for no choice, that structured path would not have been followed at all. This is not to say that the plethora of disaster recovery funds were always distributed equitably. This conmanish use of recovery funds to seek the conversion of opposers and thus increase support for his administration helped to exacerbate social inequalities, because if you were known to be not a supporter, nothing for you. The old nastiness's administration faced accusations of corruption and financial mismanagement, including claims about opaque deals and improper use of state resources. Could you imagine a popular accusation that was never denied was the sale of diplomatic passports for pound and crown, mostly to suspicious individuals with absolutely no accreditation? Even though not all substantiated, those claims tarnished his administration's reputation, because the practice goes against the UN Charter on these matters. One could only question whether the funds allegedly collected entered or consolidated funds, or where did they go? You see, his extended hold on power enabled a culture of patronage, limiting opportunities for political diversity and fostering entitlement and dependency among supporters. These supporters are today among the poorest and most vulnerable citizens after all their years of following the National Nasty Party led by the old nastiness himself. You see, all these elements intransigencies against the nation supports my total confidence in referring to him as nothing other than the old nastiness, and the organization he leads as the National Nasty Party. You see, the few people who know me well can attest to the fact that I firmly believe that it is time the members of that organization who are worth their salt take back their party from him so it could assume its rightful name, the New National Party. Grenada deserves two decent political organs if we are to truly be regarded as a two-party state, in order for democracy to flourish. As long as the old nastiness holds on to the reins of power over that party, it could never be regarded as anything other than the National Nasty Party, as that has been its nature under his leadership. You see, my pungent views that I am bold enough to ventilate with regularity are echoed privately among people who know better and would like to see better for Grenada, but lack the brawn to so articulate, because of how scared he caused people like them to become over the years. You would be surprised from whence encouragement for my bravados come. You would be surprised. Nothing I say can be contested. And so, what is objected to is the fact that I am the one saying them. Folks, I have a lot to thank my God for. I especially thank God for the brawn he blessed me with to be as frank and unpretensive as I am, always keeping it real, recognizing that this is not a popular trait. I have the presence of mind and absolute consciousness to withdraw myself from wider society, because people like me would mostly be surrounded by hypocrites who would only tolerate me, but not necessarily like me. I know that. So I ain't fooling myself. That is why I withdraw. I have pulled back myself. I learned a long time now that when one makes the decision to align himself or herself with discipline and self-respect, aloneness will result. When you make the decision to do what is right for you, the people who are with you, who are not willing to make that journey, who have not come into their own to understand your path, guess what? They will drop off. In other words, the trash will take itself out. Aloneness is the price you pay when you are determined to improve yourself. Always remember that. I'm going to put that in the comment section for you so that you can ponder on it, because it is important. Aloneness is the price you pay when you are determined to improve yourself. People usually see you how they need you, folks. Parasites. That's why some people hate you and they don't even know you. They need you to be an enemy, because if they make you an enemy, they don't have to take any responsibility. Some users pretend to think highly of you because they need to see you as some sort of savior, someone to use. Don't be too naive now. Be careful. Naivety and ignorance are too prevalent among a nation that has so much history. It's really a travesty, folks. I am in, I am out, and I'm gone. Thanks for joining. Continue to share. See you next week at the same time, same place, for more extraordinary programming. Until then, stay safe, stay well, remain vigilant, stay lifted, stay focused, please. You can find me on Facebook, Instagram, LinkedIn, Twitter, and YouTube. Remember, no fake profiles. Just Edward or Eddie Frederick. Just type those in, and you're sure to find me. Subscribe, like, and share, and be prepared to receive your mental multivitamins as straight up as I deliver them. On Facebook, you can find me on Eddie Frederick. That is the public space. Just follow, and like. And let's do this, folks, because you could only find on my social media pages things for the mind, things to make you think. You will never find patronage. Only positive vibes. And those positive vibes tend to scatter a lot of people, because their interpretation of positive is pussy paw, stupidness, soft this, soft that. No. Those don't match my personality. Positive vibes. You will get what is called shock treatment. You will get things to make you think. You get the message? So take care of your wonderful selves this coming week. Let this new month, which is a happy month, bring cheer, joy, peace, and just togetherness. Bless your hearts, folks. Stop complaining because nobody listening. Nobody listening. And all they're getting to know is your business. Be contented, and you'll see your fortunes change. Remember, a bad attitude is like a flat tire. You can't go anywhere unless you change it. So stay up, my brothers and sisters. All the best to you.
Eddie Frederick has got it all. Inspiration, motivation, great advice, and biting opinion pieces as only Eddie Frederick can deliver. Eddie Frederick has got it all.
This has been Edification, made possible by the efforts of the Center for Democracy and Good Governance, CDGG. The Center for Democracy and Good Governance is a sound organization established to promote and strengthen democracy.
If I take time and I write down all the things that I love on my island, best believe the list gon' be like 5 miles long. Best believe it's love that makes me sing this song. The cleanest breeze on the waters, friendly people meet in every corner. Togetherness and love is what we stand for. We stand for. Stand for.
Oh, island in the sun. Look at how we've grown, how far we've run. 50 years we strong and more to come. More to come. More to come. Going higher. 50 years we're blessed with fortune fire. Still reaching for more. Going up, going up, 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 going up, going up, going up, up. Ever higher. Going higher. As we aspire, build up ourselves, put people together. Bang, bang, bang. It's only up.
I want the best for my family, so every meal has to be perfect. Every bite has to say, There's no doubt in my mind that the best in frozen meats and vegetables has to come from the Country Cold Store. Hams, turkeys, sausages, beef, pork, chicken. I just don't know my family is in safe hands. Thank you, Country Cold Store, for being there for us for the past 40 years.
There are some interesting specials available at Country Cold Store's Mini Mart while stocks last. Take advantage of these specials as they assist you to stretch your limited funds.
The Country Cold Store, providing the best in frozen meats and vegetables since 1969.
Attention all forward-thinking companies. Sure, you can do with a continuous positive boost to your image and impact your bottom line. If you think training is expensive, try not training and you will experience a perpetual downward spiral in patronage on account of increased dissatisfied customers. Take things into your hands and engage the best at motivation and customer care training with a tried and tested track record. Visit www.efrederick.com now and learn how you can change the atmosphere in your business and improve the customer experience for everyone who does business with you. Spice Island Beach Resort and Belmont Estate are two such local entities of world renown that have benefited tremendously from ongoing customer care, social skills, and motivation training. Training changes everything for the better for any business and every team member. Enhance employee performance through increased awareness and passion for the job at hand. Greater potential in your workforce awaits you through engaged, high-energy training that works. Log on now, www.efrederick.com.
Eddie Frederick has got it all. Inspiration, motivation, great advice, and biting opinion pieces as only Eddie Frederick can deliver. Eddie Frederick has got it all.
Take time and I write down all the things that I love on my island. Best believe the list gon' be like 5 miles long. Best believe it's love that makes me sing this song. The cleanest breeze on the waters, friendly people meet in every corner. Togetherness and love is what we stand for. We stand for. Stand for.
Oh, island in the sun. Look at how we've grown, how far we've run. 50 years we strong and more to come. More to come. More to come. Going higher. 50 years we're blessed with fortune fire. Still reaching for more. Going up, going up, 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 going up, going up, going up, 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 up. Ever higher. Going higher. As we aspire, build up ourselves, put people together. Bang, bang, bang. It's only